knowing your upbringing, because we were definitely brought up a little more middle right as far as West Texas, family business, those values were sort of taught to us coming up, but you had a very young mom, dad was a pimp. Where did your formulation of like political views come from? Just what has formed that for you?
Money.
Yeah.
Hands down, money. It's so you know it's interesting because so many people make the assumption because I was raised on welfare, because I lived in public housing, that I fall left, and you know because I got free lunch at school, and really what shaped me was when I actually started making money. And I saw how much they took in taxes.
Right.
Boy, that'll shift your opinion real fast. Okay. And so I say to people all the time, I'm staunch fiscally conservative. And matter of fact, Megan at the office really identified this. This is the best way to put it. Because I always say, I hate taxes. I hate taxes. I actually don't hate taxes. I hate the way they're utilized. Because I do feel that it's okay to pay taxes. You make some good money. You've been able to be successful in this country based on what the country provides. It's okay to pay more in taxes. What I just loathe is the way taxes are utilized in this country. A lot of people are shocked when they hear me say this. I do believe in universal health care. Yeah. I grew up on the welfare system. I knew what it was like when I watched my mom, and granted this is back in the 70s, where she got turned away from the hospital because she was on welfare and she had to go to the county free hospital. I do believe everybody should have health care. What I don't agree with is the premise that we tax the rich. That's not a strategy. That's ridiculous. Tax the rich. Yeah. You know, throw another log on the fire. My attitude is if you're going to put something out there as far as healthcare for everyone, then you got to take something off. Something's got, you can't just keep adding things on and saying tax the rich. Yeah. That's not a strategy. That's not a good utilization of the tax dollars. So that's where the breakdown comes for me. It's not that I necessarily mind paying taxes. I just hate the way they're utilized.
Yeah. Right. And you mentioned the first time you made money is sort of parallel with the first time you see how much went to taxes. Yeah. Oh man. What was it like the first time that you made money, as far as like that first paycheck that you thought, oh, I'm rich. This is
it's funny, man, because you know when you first you get your first job. And whatever it is an hour that you're making, let's say you're making $10 an hour. So you're doing the calculations in your head. Yeah, okay, I worked 40 hours this week. I'm gonna make $400. Then you get your check and you realize 20% was taken right off the top. And Gunnar, you heard me. I made this joke the other day. You don't actually pay taxes. They take taxes. If I paid it, that means you gave me the ability, right? I'm going to go ahead and say this. You chose. Right. They take taxes. But yeah, when I got my first check, I was like, oh man, taxes suck. Yeah. And really where I just came to loathe taxes when I started investing. And I saw that, okay, let me get this straight. So I saved my money. I'm gonna use you for an example, Gunnar. So Gunnar and I make the same $10 an hour, both of us.
Which isn't true, by the way.
Right, which isn't true. So we both make $10 an hour. So Gunnar gets his check on Friday, and Gunnar goes and blows it over the weekend.
Typical Gunnar.
Typical Gunnar. And I chose to take mine and invest it. Yeah. So I invested my money. My money made some additional money. And so I got to get taxed again for doing the right thing for investing my money. On money that's already been taxed. Right. So right now, capital gains tax is 20%. And so I thought, you got to be kidding me. So I already got taxed on this money. I did the right thing, went and invested it, made some more money, and I got to get taxed again 20%. Now again, I love this country, greatest country in the world. I'll never live anywhere else. But my God, that tax should be like a single digit, 7%,
7 or
8, maybe 9. Let me keep me under double digits.
Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Just because we're talking about this, I was reading something about how in Greek society, whenever you were in the top, we'll call it 1% of earners, they didn't use taxes. They took the top 1% and they assigned each of the top 1% a task, like a governmental task, and you have to get this done. So it was like a privilege to get assigned this, okay, we need you to take care of infrastructure this year. So to your point on, I'm kind of with you. Like, taxing bothers me because I didn't agree to how you're using the money.
Right.
So what if we flipped it and the people who've proven themselves to be worthy of taking care of problems are now solving them their way?
That would be
interesting, if nothing else.
Very interesting, if nothing else to see. Well, come on. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
What I find absolutely comical, look at we'll go with the recency effect. When they had all of these problems rolling out the vaccine.
Yeah.
Why did we not call Amazon, FedEx, and UPS? Like the geniuses of how do we get stuff from A to B in 24 hours?
Domino's can maybe be in this.
Domino's.
They're a logistics company, not a
legitimately.
pizza company.
Think about it.
Yep.
That's why they've been so successful despite any number of other pizza competitors.
You nailed it. So it's like again, back to the government. We're just so inefficient, and I mean, look at the post office.
Sure.
What's that madness?
Right.
I believe $9 billion they lost last year. Last time I checked, we lose $9 billion, we're out of business.
Yeah.
The government just keeps on funding it.
Right?
So that's where I get frustrated with tax dollars.
And so I'd be curious, to Seth's point of the Greek society, if you were tasked with, hey, you're in the top 1%, you're right up there next to Bezos, Javon. So what is the task that you choose to? What is the problem you choose to solve at the governmental level?
I would have to go with education or the post office. And if I got a new task each year, my first year, I may go with the post office only because if they're losing $9 billion, and if I can even bring that down first year to a $2 billion loss, I got $7 billion that I can now allocate somewhere else, which takes us right back to how are taxes utilized.
Yes.
It would be very close between what do I attack first? Is it the post office? Is it education? But I feel that if I hit the post office up first, I can use that surplus, if you will, to then attack education. And that's a massive question, because think about it, I mean, we got bridges, roads, highways, there's so many things, but those were the first two that really jumped off to me. Third in line would be healthcare, because even now with the Affordable Health Care Act, again, I'm not a left or right guy. I even find it crappy that they call it Obamacare, just because he was the person that rolled it out, and they always say it in a very negative connotation.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a negative thing to have health care for this country. We're the wealthiest nation in the world.
And there's a lot of us.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's not a bad thing. So to try to really, I wasn't a fan of all his policies and his politics, but don't speak and say Obamacare in a negative way when that was truly set up to try to do for the country as a whole. Right. That wasn't a negative. That's a positive of how do we support our country and people as a whole.
Absolutely.
And how does because you are very passionate about healthcare, I've experienced it and benefit from it as a tribe member at Scribe Media. How and why has healthcare been so important to you as a business leader and as a CEO?
One, because, I mean, let's call it what it is. It's so damn expensive in this country. And then two, like I said, go back to when I was a kid and I watched my mom be turned away for health care. You know, I thank God my mom and dad gave me straight teeth because they wouldn't not have been able to afford braces.
Yeah. Right.
You know, I would have been an adult having to pay for it on my own. So having experienced firsthand of when things would go wrong. I joke with my wife all the time. I mean, you know, I have 4 kids, and I tell my wife that suburban kids are weak. And I say that because low income kids don't get to go to the hospital all the time. So you build up an immune system, may not be by way of choice, but you build up an immune system because every little sniffle, you don't get to run to the pediatrician and, oh, you know, Billy's got a runny nose, and you know, they give you an antibiotic or whatever the case may be. You know, you were sick. How I grew up, hey, go lay down, drink some water. You know, there was the solution. So I'm very passionate about it again because in our country, everyone should have health care.
Right.
Now, what I'm not a fan of is this universal income shit. Excuse my language, but so yeah, not a fan of that one. But universal health care for everyone, yes, big fan.
So Javon McCormick for president 2024.
Man,
Is that
the next 2028?
I want nothing to do with that. It's I feel that you can be far more impactful in business than you can in the government.
Interesting. I actually tend to agree, but do you mind expanding on that? Because it does seem that the people that we would want to run never do.
Because I did not vote for Donald Trump. Let me put that out there. I actually thought it was a bit comical, as I think everyone did when he said he was going to run. He did it from a business perspective. Say what you want about Donald Trump. Again, I didn't vote for him. Wasn't a fan. Man, he told you exactly what was on his mind. And if you don't like him, you do have, if you're truly being fair. He said a lot of things that were just flat true. And I feel like the difference, what we saw as a country was that was the first time you really saw someone go into politics and actually said what the truth was. Now, I say what the truth was because, again, we're talking about Donald Trump. But most politicians give very political answers. Yeah. I've said this out loud. Joe Biden ran on an immigration ticket. His whole campaign was around immigration and the virus. Many people don't know that Joe Biden has not been down to the Texas border since 2008.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we just had Jay Root, who's a Houston Chronicle journalist, 2 days ago, done a lot of coverage on the border, and he talked about Biden said a lot that he was going to do. Jay's been down there a lot since he was elected. Nothing's changed.
Nothing. And so I feel that, one, I learned personally, the way I grew up and paying attention was business makes the world go round. You know, I watch CNBC, the financial channel, and I watch Bloomberg, the financial channel. I'm not a big fan of watching the local news. There's not, you know, if the local liquor store got robbed, it's not really affecting the economy as a whole. I look at business because business truly makes the world go round, and it impacts how we do business, the people in the country. You know, right now, here's a great example. Go back 3-4 years to your point about business. This is a good one. So many people right now hate Jeff Bezos.
Sure.
Easy to hate him because he's number one. Great. But again, let's be fair. Matter of fact, if I die, I do this exercise with some people. Gunnar, I don't know if I've ever done this with you at the office. If you pass away and there was one word to define you, what would the one word be? And mine would be fair. And I always make the joke because I'm half black, half white. I always had to be fair and look at both sides of the situation. There's no gray areas. It truly is black or white. But my word would be fair. And so when I look at Jeff Bezos, yes, we can attack warehouses and conditions and we can do all of that. But let's go back 3-4 years. In our country, we were arguing about $10 an hour. Okay? Mm-hmm. Jeff Bezos just said, you know what? Damn all that. 15. Mm-hmm. And I feel like people completely overlook that Jeff Bezos truly swung the economy. After he did that, everyone was forced to, then Walmart said, damn, we can't afford to go straight to 15, but we'll go to 11. And other places like, well, we got to go to 15.
Yeah.
Quietly, Amazon just announced that they're going to 18 an hour.
Yep.
So, yes, every place, no place is perfect. But a lot of people lose track or don't talk about, man, he took us to $15 an hour where the argument was 10.
Yeah.
I mean, $10 an hour.
And supported thousands of small businesses along the way, but no one's going to say that.
No one's going to say that.
And Etsy's a lot cuter, but...
well, and even this, you see this in their commercials, and people can say it's propaganda, but there are a lot of people who are thankful that Amazon came and built a warehouse in that community because now they have a job and they have health care. So there, for all of the people who knock Amazon, you got a lot of people who are very thankful for Amazon.
On the fair part, I want to go back in your past a little bit. This interview is mostly going to be focused on what we have coming even this year with your second book, Modern Leader. And I mean, anyone can Google your name and hear about your past, hear about your upbringing, but it's still important to revisit a little bit. Knowing your upbringing as far as growing up half black, half white, in Ohio, in Texas, single mom, prostitute dad, you were treated...
No, my dad wasn't a prostitute, he was a pimp.
I mean, that was a little weird. Different people. He was a pimp. You were treated unfairly, and a lot of people in your situation would have just said, life is treating me unfair, I deserve a silver platter now because I've done my suffering. You, almost without any guidance, seemingly have throughout your life stepped into someone who wants to be fair, someone who lives to be fair, also someone who doesn't choose to be a victim.
No.
How have you been able to do all of that? Because I believe lesser men have tried that from less harsh situations and failed. So how have you been able to become a fair man and an incredible business leader knowing that background?
So much of it is because I was in those circumstances. You know, I saw my mom, they spit in her face, the lady spit in her face, called her nigger lover. I saw us get evicted from public housing because my mom was a nigger lover. And it was interesting. It's always it's been a little comical to me. You know, even the lady, I still laugh about this, Gunner. That older lady that spit in my mom's face and called her nigger lover. She was standing in the same broke-ass welfare line as us. Yeah. Like, what made you any better? You know, and so I made peace with that when I was 8. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm mixed race. Mm-hmm. I knew everyone's not going to like me. And this is real important. Many people forget or don't know, I wasn't legally allowed to be born in this country until 1967. Mm-hmm. Like, mixed race was illegal. Yeah. And 1967 is when, all right, fine. You know, and so it's, I just look at humans across the board. You know this, we're a people first organization. Yeah. It doesn't matter to me who you voted for. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter to me what pronouns you use. You know, a lot of people get offended by this. I don't care. If a person is transgender, they still deserve to use the restroom in peace. Yeah. And because they're still a human, regardless of what someone wants to say about their views, their thoughts, they're still a human. And I always go back to this. You both know I'm a God guy. My kids go to private Christian school. And what's really helped me a lot is the story of Jesus and the prostitute. He didn't judge her. And that's really big for me because I choose to do my best and not judge people. But in being fair, I choose to be fair because I would always hear life isn't fair. It is not. But I can choose to be fair. And that's how I always approach everything, from just a fair, let me hear the other person's perspective before I shut it down. Now, you watch CNN. They've got their perspective. They'll spin the news the way they want to. You watch Fox News. They've got their perspective. They'll spin the same story the way they want to. I'm fair, and I go, okay, wait a minute. You're both full of shit. That's not what actually happened. You're taking it to where it benefits your network, where I choose to make up my own mind, have my own opinion, not be led down a path of someone else's opinion that I've not thought through. And that takes me right back to, okay, let's be fair about this.
I love that.
Were you able to always maintain that perspective, or is that something that you grew into?
I grew into it, but I've always lived by this phrase. I don't as much anymore, but I would always say, I didn't create the rules of society. I just learned how to make them work for me. And that's really what I did. Even if you go back to when, Gunnar, you know this, when I chose to change my name from Javon to JT. My name's Javon Thomas McCormick, and I chose to go by JT because if JT called you, you know who that was. If JT emailed you, sent a resume, and you didn't know who that was. But if you saw Javon, I got judged because I had a quote-unquote ethnic name. And so the rules of society were, okay, I can get ahead further if I edit myself and go by JT. Now, again, we go right back to this. Some people would make the argument, well, that's not fair. It shouldn't be that way. Hey, whole lot of things aren't fair. A whole lot of things shouldn't be a certain way, but I did not create the rules. I always made the rules work for me. Now, as I've gotten older, as I've had a little bit of success, I've also realized just what's that phrase? To whom much is given, but much is expected.
Didn't we talk about this?
Yeah, we talk about this.
I think I said that.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Spider-Man said that.
Yeah, Spider-Man's dad said it, but it's also
It was
in
his
Mark.
uncle
It's in
for
Mark
one.
1923 or something like that.
Yeah, I actually thought it was in the Bible. And if it's not, it should be.
Yeah, it is in the Bible. I read it a few days ago.
So I look at that and I say, okay, well, I became a CEO. I need to now, just because I edited myself because it wasn't fair or because that's what I had to do or society kind of dictated it or I chose to, how do I make changes now that I'm in the CEO chair to where a Martavius, a LaQuanda, a Rayvante can have an opportunity to get into corporate America, the business world, and succeed and not be held back by their name.
Yeah. What are some ways that you're trying to make those changes even right now?
Reclaiming my name and going by Javon is one of them. But the other thing is also is to teach what I've learned. The way I grew up, rapper, athlete, drug dealer. Yeah. For me, in my small view of the world, those were my options out of my situation. And I sucked at all three. So no one told me about the fourth option. Business, entrepreneurship. I mean, hell, when I was 15, if you would have said entrepreneur to me, I would have thought you were speaking Spanish.
Right.
and so going back and teaching those lessons, hey, no one told us about this. No one told us about business, investing. Many people don't know you don't have to have a degree to be a certified financial planner.
No.
Many people don't know that. So teaching those lessons that will help get someone out of those circumstances, letting them know what's available. Here, Gunnar, give me this for a second. Here's a great way. When I spoke, there was like 250 CEOs in the room, and everybody had a successful business. And I said, look, we don't know what we don't know. I said, how many people in this room know how to perform brain surgery? Any neurosurgeons in here? Of course, no one raised their hand. How many people can build and launch a rocket? No one raised their hand. I said, see, we don't know what we don't know. Unfortunately, in the lower economic communities, there's just a lot of shit we don't know.
Yeah.
But it's our responsibility to go and teach those things. And so for me, that's areas of where when I volunteered at the Texas Juvenile Justice Department, teaching kids how to shake hands, how to shake someone's hand, look them in the eye. Nice to meet you, sir. To go in and ask for an application. Excuse me, sir, do you have any employment opportunities? I mean, think about that. Who says that going into Burger King?
Yeah. Right.
No one. But if the three of us walked in right now and said, excuse me, sir, do you have any employment opportunities? We're getting hired before we leave.
On the spot.
On the spot, because we said something different.
Yeah.
Attention to detail. I have asked so many people have gone to Ivy League schools, Stanford, MIT. I go, did they teach attention to detail in college? And I'm like, no. Where do you learn that lesson? I mean, for me, I learned it from Uncle Bobby. You know, we had to clean up the Section 8 rental homes. So shaking hands, attention to detail, punctuality, be on time. Don't just be on time, be early. Be really early. And so those are little things that arguably, I've only got a GED, that have helped me with more success in my career than any piece of paper, because it says I have a bachelor's and went to whatever school.
So going back to the need to teach those things. I mean, we grew up with a financial advisor, and we very rarely talked about anything financial. So it's just not something that's taught. How did you get into the business side of things and discover you had an aptitude for it? Because you've built some amazing things.
This is the part where I feel that the blessings just came in a different way. Matter of fact, Tucker said this to me. He said one of the greatest things that ever happened to you is you never went to college. And of course I was like, that seems that it's been a hindrance for me my whole life. And I asked him, I go, why? And keep in mind, he went to University of Chicago and Duke Law School.
Yeah,
so I'm thinking,
he went to college twice.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
And he said, here's why. You never bought into all the bullshit they teach in college. And that really hit home for me because, and I say this respectfully, it's going to sound disrespectful, if you are a Harvard business professor and you've never run a business or owned a business, you're teaching theory.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
There's not a lot you really can teach me at this point. And so I look at it as I had to, because I am limited on English, biology, being able to read, I immersed myself in the thing that I fell in love with, which was business and investing. So that became what I consumed myself with. There wasn't a lot of options. I didn't know, wow, you could be a biologist, you could be an astronaut, you can be, all these different things, all the different majors that you can go through in school. I didn't know any of that. I got introduced to the stock market, I don't know, 1920. Or I was 19 or 20 years old, not in 1920. I was 19 or 20. But here's something, Gunnar, it's not in the book. When I was 12, 13 years old, I used to order magazines. This is back, I'm going to show my age on this one, guys. You would be able to get a magazine and it would say, bill me later. And then you put this card in the mail and they'd send you two magazines, two months of magazines, but then they figure out, okay, you're not going to pay, so they stop sending it to you, but I would at least get two. And I would play like I was the president of a company when I was 12, 13 years old. I didn't even know what a CEO was. I didn't even know that was a thing, probably until I was in my 20s. Didn't even know what a CEO was. So I've always liked business in some way, shape, or form. And again, I was just blessed that became the thing that I consume myself with.
And you just get obsessed with it.
Oh man, Gunner knows. I'll just go.
He was telling me about the Disney trip.
Oh,
Can
Disney.
you just I'll set it up and talk about it. You, and I want to talk about relationships. This is a good segue. You are a family man. You love your kids to death. You love your wife to death. You, aside from leading, again, the Scribe Media, you lead me as far as what it looks like to be a loving husband and a caring father. You're amazing with your family.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
I mean it. And you took them all to Disney World recently, and had a really fun time.
Yep.
And I just want to hear about how it went.
Man, so Disney as a company is one of my favorite companies. Okay, and Bob Iger, who was the former chairman and CEO of Disney, is one of my favorite all-time publicly traded company CEOs. I say publicly traded because then you have places like, you have people like John D. Rockefeller who, you go back then. So, but Disney is a great, Disney's a great measurement of the American society and the economy and class. If you go into Disney, you can see classism at Disney World, and of course, coming from a business perspective, that's how I'm going to see it. But even start. So here's what I think, Gunner, man, you open the door. So think about this, Disney, and a lot of people at the company have heard me go on this rant. But so first and foremost, if you can't even afford to get into Disney, that's one level of economics in our society. But let's say you can't go to Disney. Okay, can you afford to fly, or do you have to drive? Mm-hmm. All right, so we're at Disney. Yeah. Can you afford to stay on premise at Disney, or do you have to stay off premise? Because it's expensive to stay on Disney premises. Then, when you're there, can you stay at the hotels that have the monorail that connect everything? Or do you have to stay at a different hotel? So that there you have levels there. Now, we get into Disney. Can you afford to go to all the parks? Or are you limited to the parks that you can go to? When you're in Disney, can you afford to eat at the restaurants? Or did you have to bring your food with you? Can you afford to privately see the princesses, the characters, and go to the expensive character lunches and dinners? Or do you have to stand in that outside line for 45 minutes to wait to get your picture for free with the character? So there's just so many different levels to Disney World. Do you have to stand in the 2-hour and 45-minute line? Or do you have Fast Pass, or what's, I guess, Lightning now? Or do you have a private tour? Mm-hmm. So that, I mean, there's levels to Disney World, and it all comes down to economics. Mm-hmm. Where are you on the economic ladder? When I take my kids into the souvenir shop, and you hear, this is really where it hit me 2 years ago. 2019, so what, three years ago, we took, my daughter's 8, she's been to Disney World 3 times. I was 46 before the first time I got to go. But the first, we went, and my daughter, she got to go to Bippity Boppity. Mm-hmm. And this is where it hit me, the classism of Disney. It's broken down into sections. Over here, this might be the $50 section of the dress and the tiara and everything that you can afford. This might be the $100, and over here is the $250 section. And so my daughter's in there, and she's like, "Oh, Daddy, I want this one." And of course, it's the $250 version. And I hear this other little girl, she's like, "Mommy, I want this one." And you hear the mom, "We can't afford that." And so you're watching as it's taking place. One child is getting the $250, the other one can't afford it, has to go. Now, both are there, but where do you fall? Economically, where do you fall? My wife asked me this when we were there. We did the private tour, so you're walking right past everybody, and my wife,
all the peasants.
well, and here's what's funny. Again, it took me 46 years to get there, and I do not run from this, man. I've eaten out of trash cans. I've slept on bus stops and been homeless. So my wife asked me, she said, do you feel bad we were walking by someone, and she goes, oh, do you feel bad that we just walked by that family room? I go, nope. and then she goes, why not? I go, one, it took me 46 years to get here. I said, and two, my belief, at least in my head, is maybe that kid watches us walk by and he says to himself or herself, I'm going to do that one day.
Yeah. Because do you believe that anyone, if they do it right or follow the right plan, make the right investments, work as hard as they can get to where you are somehow, some way?
Man, I've had so many people challenge me on this. Over the last 3 years, people have always said, okay, yeah, you're special. You just have a different gift. Man, for 45, 47 years, I never believed that. Mm-hmm. And I've slowly come around to, okay, maybe I do just see things different, but the one thing that the one thing that really bothers me about this country right now, and again, I love this country, never leaving. We have shortcomings, we have flaws, but I love this country. There's a difference between the country and society. What I don't like about society right now is people always want to blame somebody for something.
Sure.
You know, okay, my dad was a pimp. Okay, he wasn't around. My mom shouldn't have had me. I don't know where my last name comes from. Man, I'm not going to make excuses. What are the rules?
Yeah.
Just like this. I hated this video. I hated this video. There was a video. They had these kids lined up on what looked like a soccer field.
Oh yeah.
And they said if you come from a 2-parent home, take 2 steps forward or something. Yeah. If both your parents went to college, and so at the end, you had several of the white kids that were way out on the field. Mm-hmm. And what was so sad to me, and maybe because I would have been one of those kids, they turned the camera around and you had these minority kids still standing on the line because they didn't have any of those things. Why that bothered me is because, in my opinion, you may be showing what the truth is, but at the same time, in my opinion, you're also defeating that person. And well, see, they got to start way up there, and then and so, because for me, my mentality is this: if I was standing on that line and that other kid was 40 yards in front of me, my mentality is, okay, you're starting 40 yards ahead of me. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to walk your ass down like a cheetah on the Serengeti. Mm-hmm. But I'm coming. I'm going to catch you.
Absolutely.
That's a choice. Mm-hmm. So when you ask me, can everyone do what I have done? Maybe not. Can everyone be a neurosurgeon? Probably not. So maybe they can't. But we all have a choice. Mm-hmm. We all have a choice. Mm-hmm. I can choose to look at life as it happened to me. Oh, it's not my fault.
Yeah. Or
I can choose to say, okay, yeah, that shit happened, but what am I going to do?
Right. Take that grit.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. I still struggle to say no. Everyone can't do what I did.
But we're not asking to have a final answer.
Yeah, it's
when it's a huge experiment on passion and nurture and nature. It does bring up something I'm curious about. Partially, maybe I want to start my own family someday. How do you ensure that your children have some kind of that same drive and grit that you have, knowing that they have every advantage? So they're the kids now starting it, but if you're using your video analogy, they're the ones all the way ahead.
2 things on that, man. So my kids, I've got 4, 8, 6, 4, and 3. And they live in a gated community. They go to private Christian school. They get to do private tours at Disney.
Did you ever think you would say any of this?
No. I mean, I'm still happy I get to do it.
I'm looking looking at you like part of that private tour is for you.
Yes.
It's like, dude, I don't want to wait in line.
Totally.
Like, I've never been to Disney.
I
This
used
is
to
for
wait in
me.
line for welfare. I'm not going to wait in line for Disney.
Man,
Right.
hey, Gunner,
Yeah.
you nailed it, man. I had to wait for the bus
Yeah.
because my mom didn't even learn how to drive until she was 35, let alone being able to afford a car.
Mm-hmm.
We had to wait for the welfare.
Mhm.
We had to wait for the laundromat to wash her clothes. So I hate waiting so much.
Mhm.
Man, if Walgreens had valet parking, I'd do it. I loathe waiting. So your question, my kids.
Mhm.
One.
And it doesn't even have to be your kids per se. Just
No, I'll directly go with mine because I struggle with this.
Mhm.
You know, my daughter will ask, "Are we staying at the JW or are we staying at the regular Marriott?" Like she knows the
What a
difference.
gangster. Oh man.
Yeah, and so matter of fact, Gunnar, I don't know if you remember when we put this on Slack. So my daughter's flown first class. We've flown first class as a family. We were flying JetBlue one time, and she said, "Are we flying first class?" And I said, "JetBlue doesn't have a first class." So she looked and she goes, "So are we last class?" And I was like, "Oh wow, wow."
Burned by my daughter.
Yeah,
Okay,
and so I've had many a conversation with my wife on this. How do you learn to appreciate something if you've always had it?
Mhm.
Why do I appreciate private tour Disney?
Mhm.
Because I had to wait in line for everything. Why do I appreciate being able to have my clothes custom made? Because I had holes in my shoes when I was a kid, and I had to wear shoes when they didn't even fit anymore. So, but my kids, they don't come from that arena.
Right.
You know, they have a pantry full of food.
Mhm.
You know, I remember even my wife. Oh, it's a funny story. My wife's gonna hate that I told this story. When I first met my wife, I was like, "Yeah, I grew up, really poor, U.S. poor," and I'm always very specific. I grew up United States poor because poor outside this country, that's
Right.
a whole different poor.
Absolutely.
So I grew up poor in this country, and my wife goes, "Oh, I grew up poor too," and I was like, "Oh,
Hey, oh.
do tell." and she goes, "Yeah, we didn't have furniture in our formal living room," and I go, "Okay, pause. let's back up a second because the words poor and formal don't even go together." Okay.
And again, she was implying there was another living room.
Exactly.
Right.
I go, that's saying that you had another living space, and so
It also implies that one was furnished. So
Right.
And that you were in a house with multiple rooms in it.
Yes. So we got real clear on the definition of poor. But my kids, to your point, here's how I've decided to look at this. I'm going to show my kids everything I possibly can.
Yeah.
And what financially can be achieved. When their time comes, it is going to be up to them to go achieve that. But one of my, if not my number one rule as a parent, obviously I want them to always know they're loved. I'm proud of them. Even if they make mistakes, I'm proud of them. Matter of fact, we say that every night. I'm proud of you even if I make mistakes. Okay, good. But I also never want there to be a door that they say, "Oh, I wish someone would have told me that." I want my kids to be able to say, "Damn, Dad told us that was going to happen." and so that way, hey, you knew.
You knew.
You're never going to be in a position where you didn't know. And why that's important to me, man, there was so many things I just didn't know. That there was no one to teach me, no one told me. So I look at this as, okay, yes, you stayed at the presidential suite at JW. You know what that looks like. One day, if you want that, you want to take your family there, here, I'm also going to show you what it takes to have to get that. I'm going to show you what that bill looks like. So that's been my approach because I've struggled for years. Like, how do I give them everything? But teach them to appreciate
but also
it.
teach them everything.
Yeah. And so that's just been my approach. Okay, this is how I'm going to look at it. And God willing, my 8-year-old right now, she swears she wants to be an obstetrician.
Cool.
Could change between now,
Sure.
But if my daughter, by the grace of God, got into Harvard Medical School, I'll pay every dime. She'll graduate, no student loans. But when you graduate,
see you.
All the best. So
that was the same as our dad.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're not going to keep riding this party.
We were very thankful to even have up through college because a lot of people
100%.
don't have that.
Yeah.
So yes, that's how I've approached it, to try to teach them different aspects. I don't share this a lot, but I do feel it's important, especially for people with kids. You also have to model what it looks like to give back.
Right.
So on Christmas Eve each year, before the next day comes and they're just loaded with way too much stuff, we take our kids out to, and this is a lot to do for me as well, because that time period where I lived in an hourly rate motel, we go out to Super 8, Motel 6, the motels that you can get in from the outside, and you see the cleaning cart out there. So we'll take our kids and we'll go and give $100 to cleaning ladies on Christmas Eve. And I want them to see it. A lot of times what's crazy is you go up there and these cleaning ladies have their children with them. Because school's not in, it's Christmas Eve, and so they're in there cleaning these rooms as well. And so I want my kids to see you all live very different. And so
to your credit, to your point, and I just want to illustrate the effectiveness of that. I will never forget, and I won't say exactly what it was because I don't think that you would want it to be public knowledge, but I will never forget the Christmas that my dad, grabbed me, put me in the truck, and we drove over to a part of town. And he and a couple of the other deacons at church had pitched in and gotten this family a brand new pickup truck. And he was like, sit in the car, like, I just want you to watch and take this in. And I saw a family's future change in that moment. And I have never forgotten that.
Yeah.
And that is now part of the story that I tell myself, that I want to be able to do that and give back in that way. So I think, the way that you're doing that and where you're going about it, I can only speak for myself, but I think it's very effective.
thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely effective. And Javon, you're obviously a deeply relational person. We're gonna get to modern leadership soon. This is what you gotta post a plug.
You already knew.
You're gonna go on the podcast where you talk about the normal stuff.
Look, we're just warming you up.
I appreciate it.
You're a very relational person and a very loving person, a very caring person. But you've
obviously
mentioned,
very intentional.
Yes,
which I appreciate.
You've mentioned even in your first book, I Got There, having some relational issues, especially with women before you met your wife.
Man.
And to details you're willing to give, I don't want you to share anything. I want to share just what did turbulent relationships or relational struggle look like for you before you had your wife and your family and you were CEO?
Man, I'll put the details out there. I was horrible. Disrespectful. That's a nice way of putting it. Man, I was a monster. I don't blame anyone. It's what I came from. I had never seen what a healthy relationship looked like. I saw my dad yelling at prostitutes to get their ass back out there and get his money. And so I saw that. I never really saw my mom respected by men. So, okay. So I got in relationships. I just didn't know how to act. I blame myself. If I can teach myself how to make money in the stock market, you teach yourself how to conduct yourself in a relationship. But I was a monster. I was disrespectful. I was verbally abusive. I'm man enough to admit there were times I was physically abusive. It sucked, man. I could not hold a relationship. It's funny. I don't have a lot of regrets in life because I feel like you learn from your mistakes. But I do have remorse. I'm very remorseful for how I conducted myself in relationships. Outside of that, man, I don't really have remorse for anything.
What was it that started the transition from unhealthy relationships to learning what healthy modeling looked like?
More mistakes. Here was the thing. The goal for me was always to make money. I made money, then went broke, and then I realized, oh wow, you made a lot of money, you still had a crappy character. You went broke, and you still have a crappy character. And I was like, okay, money didn't change the character, so okay, we got to get this character thing figured out. And then another struggle for me, man, and I don't put this on anyone. Here's something that's very interesting. Someone wrote a review about my book on Amazon, and the review says, while anecdotes of this story may be true, the majority of it is not. For anyone who knows the author, they know what I'm talking about. 5-6 years ago, that pissed me off. But when I read it, I had to be honest with myself. Whoever wrote that was the truth. Because whoever wrote that, I promise you, did not know my dad had 23 kids. Did not know my dad was a pimp. Did not know that I was in and out of juvenile. Don't know where my last name. So they didn't really know me. So whoever wrote that knew the version of whatever I presented at the time. That was always a struggle as well in relationships, because here I am in this relationship and I'm not 100% honest going into it. You don't know who I am. You don't know my background, for fear that you may not accept me. Gunnar, I don't know if you remember this. It was just right before I met my wife. So I've been with my wife 10 years now. But right before I met my wife, a very prominent business owner here in Austin, we were dating. And we were on a call one day, we're on the phone, and she says to me, hey, I gotta tell you something. And she goes, oh, I'm in love with you. I was like, oh, okay. Crappy response, but I was like, oh, okay. but
cool.
Yeah, oh, nice. Of course, ditto.
Yes.
But she followed it up with, she goes, but we can't stay together. I was like, well, that's an odd follow-up.
It's a weird.
Yeah.
Like, my response might have sucked, but this is
right. Yours is worse. And she said, because my family will never accept you. 2 days prior, we had just never talked about it. She didn't know I was mixed race. She didn't know I was half white, half black. She thought I was Italian, Middle Eastern, Mexican, anything but black. When she found out I was half black, she said, my family would never accept you. And so, of course, I was used to it, so it wasn't that big of a deal to me. It kind of sucked, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I actually felt very bad for her, because, wow, you're going to live the rest of your life having to try to find someone that your family will accept just based on their race and nationality. But I walked around for years, even prior to that, where people didn't always know what I was, and that was a struggle. Man, so many people thought I had a degree. So many people thought I had an MBA just because I would always talk about business. So everyone just thought, where'd you get your MBA from? That was a struggle in relationships. So there was times, for me, it was just, I was angry at myself. I was angry at my circumstances. I was angry at the position I put myself in, to where I really like this person, but if I tell them all of my background, are they still going to like me? And so I was always battling with that. And just like I said, and more importantly, didn't know what a healthy relationship even looked like.
So what's it like to now have a healthy relationship?
Oh man, you said at the beginning, like, my life was so chaotic growing up. Most people would look at my life and maybe call it mundane or boring. Man, I love knowing I'm coming home to the same woman every day, same house, same bed, children, chaos, love, laughter, everyone's healthy. I love consistency, routine, structure, organization, because they're all the things I grew up without. You know, you never knew if you're going to be evicted. You never knew if you're going to be hungry. It was all just chaos all the time. The chaos I have now is, okay, my son's running around butt naked. He just went outside. Okay, I can live with that one, right? Do your thing, Jace. But
live your truth.
Yeah, exactly, man. Go jump on the trampoline, man. So it's very rewarding, very therapeutic, even if you will. Because say, hey, here's who I am. That's what you get.
You now built the thing that you need.
Yeah,
and that's a beautiful thing.
Oh man, it's lovely. You know, it's so. I've said this before. If I had to go back to my childhood, I'm talking the sexual molestation, the time in juvenile prison, the times where I stood in the window waiting on my dad to show up, when I was homeless. Man, I would do my childhood 5 more times if you told me I was going to be where I am right now. Oh man, sign me up for 5 more tour of duty to that childhood, because
so awesome.
This, I mean, taking your kids to Disney World, beautiful home, family, consistency, structure,
GameStop money.
but money, investing. It's but at the same time, man, I won't run from it. A lot of hours of work put into to this, man.
Didn't come
Yeah,
easy.
it didn't just fall on your lap.
No.
Now you mentioned that you had a flawed character and you lost everything, and you had to first fix the character to rebuild. And I'm curious what it was like stripping away these masks that you had made so that other people would think you were a certain way, and taking the mask off and saying, no, this is who I am, and rebuilding from there. Is it a process? Are you still?
Yeah, it's a process, because I went on to have a couple more relationships and they sucked, and it was because of me. And so it was definitely a process of learning to be okay with myself. Even success in business. It took a while for me to really. Okay, damn, I'm pretty good. I kind of know a few things. Right? Wow. Okay. This is not as scary as I thought. So it took time, but the big thing is being willing to look at yourself and own that, and own the mistakes. Gunnar, you know this. At the office, we teach, coach, and mentor. We don't train. You train a dog, you train a horse, you train your body. We teach, coach, and mentor. And for me, the great majority of my teaching and coaching comes by way of the mistakes I've made throughout my career. I share my mistakes. I think our society, I know our society is so full of shit. We will say we learn the most from our mistakes. Everyone's heard that. But no one shares mistakes.
Right.
What's the most colossal mistake you've made in the past 10 years?
Ooh, last 10 years? I've been pretty good last 10 years. I've met my wife.
Batting 1,000 over here.
It would probably be. I made some mistakes when I was first-time president at the software company. There was a definitely imposter syndrome going on over there. Sure. President of a software company, I don't write code. I remember a couple of the software engineers. One gentleman had 2 master's degrees. I'm like, well, one wasn't good enough. And so made some mistakes over there.
Howdy, y'all. Sorry to interrupt, but I gotta bring you this word from our sponsors at MANSCAPED. They are offering y'all 20% off plus free shipping for the Lawn Mower 4.0 with code Texish. That's right, the name of your favorite podcast, Texish, that's Texish, is gonna get y'all 20% off the Lawn Mower 4.0. Give your lover the gift of silky smooth balls this Valentine's Day with code Texish for 20% off MANSCAPED. All MANSCAPED items, 20% off plus free shipping with code Texish. That's right. Your favorite podcast is getting you groomed up below the belt. And trust me, it works. Back to our interview.
but even then, it was a mistake in business. You know, more. I'm not going to say I've been mistake free over the 10 years, but I really did my best to even if I made a mistake, to own it, speak it out loud,
immediately,
share it. I mean, right. So I guess why I'm struggling on that is mistakes for me. Just me personally, those were mistakes I didn't want you to know about.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, these now, the last 10 years, I was fine telling you about them. You know,
then what's
they don't feel like mistakes as much.
Yeah, they feel like learning lessons. They're like, okay, hey, you know, I made some mistakes. First time president of a software company. Okay, not going to do that again.
Well, that's a huge mindset shift to be able to say, okay, this did not go the way I wanted it to, but it's really easy, I think, to fall into beating yourself up. Going in that spiral of, oh, well, I can't do anything. I don't know code. I don't know how to do this. Rather, you took it as, okay, I won't do that again.
Yeah.
And moving forward. It can be so hard to just move forward from that. So what was the mistake that led you to knowing or internalizing how to just move forward from them?
The mistakes I grew up watching were, some could even argue that they weren't actually mistakes. They were just some wrong things that were going on. You know, my dad putting women on the street corner, drug addicts, people going to prison. Like those were, I saw things that were sometimes not reversible.
Yeah.
You know, you murdered someone.
That was it.
You can't reverse that one.
Yeah.
Someone just died.
Yeah.
What I've learned is, and if you notice, I go back to my kids. Daddy loves you no matter what, even if I make mistakes. I can fix mistakes.
Yeah.
Dad, I burned the school down. Oh, damn. Okay. So how much is it going to cost to rebuild it? You know? So I can guide, teach, coach, mentor my kids through mistakes. Mistakes you can recover from. I grew up watching things that sometimes people did not recover. You know, I grew up around heroin addicts and crackheads where, I don't know if I can share this, man. One of the just images that are burned in my head that was so sad, I'll never forget it. Walking, and I was walking past an alley, and there was a lady with her 2-year-old child on her knees performing oral sex on someone, but she was a drug addict.
Yeah.
And when you see the levels that you will allow yourself to go with drugs, some of that shit's just not reversible. And by the grace of God, you know, again, I always look at things from a positive standpoint. So here was, most people say, oh my God, I can't believe he was raised in that. I see it as a positive because here's the thing, I've never done a drug.
Right.
Because I've seen what heroin addicts look like and what they'll do.
The desires.
No. No, because drugs are just, oh man, the destruction that comes with it. My wife laughs at me because I always tell her, a crackhead is a crackhead is a crackhead. and she goes,
I wish I didn't understand that as well as I do.
Yeah.
So here's what I mean by that is, if we'll use Austin because we're here in Austin. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you live in Westlake, the most affluent neighborhood in Austin, and you are addicted to opioids that the doctor prescribes to you, you're a crackhead.
Yes, you are.
I don't care that you live in an 18,000 square foot house and you make millions of dollars. You're a crackhead. The economics in where you live do not insulate you from being a crackhead.
Drug-seeking behavior is
because of
that. Exactly. So it's funny because so many people feel that because the doctor prescribed them, and I live in this affluent area, and I'm wealthy, and no. You're a crackhead.
And I feel like you could use the same neighborhood, same example, if it's 5 glasses of wine a night.
Yeah.
You know, if
you're an alcoholic.
You're like, it doesn't matter if you're on the street outside of Vulcan Gas Company on 6th Street or if you're in Westlake.
And it's interesting, Gunnar, because some, not all, some of those people are the most judgmental of other people just because their zip code is different.
Right. Something about glass houses. In this
To me, a crackhead is a crackhead is a crackhead, and I've watched just the destruction of drugs. So yeah, I've never done any drugs. I drank once when I was 15, first and last time.
Wow.
I don't gamble.
Sure.
I don't do any drugs. I don't smoke. My vice, if you will, and I always the Lord and I always battle on this one. Man, I'll use foul language.
Oh yeah. That's okay. That's.
But there's also a level of all the of all the things you could do.
And contextually, a nicely laid out curse word can really just.
Yeah, it drives the point.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what's interesting, Henry, is like I don't curse around my children, which is interesting. But man, you get me at the office, just the things like I don't know, like I store it up and then
maybe the fire. Yeah.
It does depend on the situation. With cussing, I try not to cuss at home with my wife. Like at home with my wife, but if we're out to dinner in public, I'll cuss in front of my wife. Like just depends on the situation.
You nailed it. I say this to my wife all the time. She'll say, "Oh well, they're going to think such and such about us." And I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
And you need that.
Yes,
you need the ability
because
to
it drives the point of how much I truly don't give a fuck. But yeah, it's that's my vice.
And we have mentioned a couple of societal issues and struggles in society. We got a new book coming out in a couple months. Modern Leader, your first book. I got there, it's still on Amazon, wonderful book. That's a memoir, that's your story. What made you decide to write another book in general, but especially a book about leadership, especially at a publishing company where frankly, we publish a leadership book twice a week. So what made you decide to go this route?
Straightforward, I really wasn't the person that decided because you know this from working with me. My philosophies, beliefs are different than most. I don't believe there's one way of leadership, but mine is obviously very different. I'm all about people first, and if you're in leadership, your role is to serve and support, and it's all the little things that we do different that lend itself to that. Like Gunnar, you know this. No one works for me. People work with me. I'm no one's boss. Gunnar's equally as important to the organization as I am.
Megan's your boss, but other than that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just the way business can be done in a different way, and it could be in a way that puts people first. How do you open your doors to people who may not have an opportunity to even interview? You know, and as I do with so many things, I'll just say what other people won't say. You know, the fact of the matter is, and I'll say this out loud, if you went to Harvard, then you got your master's from Harvard, and then you went to medical school at Harvard, but at the top of your resume, it says Martavius Jenkins, you may never get the interview just because the name at the top of the resume said that they're not even going to make it down to Harvard because they saw Martavius Jenkins. And that sucks. And so, I'll say those things out loud. How do you do it different? How do you, again, put people first? People, process, profits. And with those profits, how do you give back to the communities that you live in and work in? But it all starts with people. So many companies, I've had people literally debate with me. They'll say, nope, you got to build great process first, then it's people. So I got two arguments for that. One, you can have a flawless process. If you put bad people in a flawless process, they're going to wreck your shit. So, but here's the other part. It just, when people, I don't think they listen to themselves. Nope. You got to build good process first. Okay, who's building the process? People. So we're right back to great people can build great process, make great profits. As a bonus, do great things for the communities that we live and work in.
And that's kind of the whole conceit of your leadership style.
Oh, totally. Again, even this, most companies will say, "Hey, Gunnar, who do you report to?" At Scribe, we don't have direct reports. We have direct supports. If you are in leadership, your role is to support and serve those people that you are leading. That's it. That is your role. If you're in leadership, serve and support. So many people will get manager after their title, VP after their name, and something clicks in their head that they become a dictator. And no, if you are in leadership, your role is to serve and support. And that's it's so simple, but for so many people, it's a hard concept to grasp. Here's one of my favorites. Gunnar, you weren't there yet at the company. I kept hearing everyone say low-level task. Oh, we need to hire somebody in. That's a low-level task. Someone needs to take care of that. That's a low-level task. And then finally, I got fed up one day, and it was a Find a Way Food Friday.
Nice.
Pulled everybody together, and I go, okay, someone please explain to me, what the hell is this low-level task you speak of? I said, how many people in here have seen me take out the trash? A couple people raised their hand. Cleaned out the storage closet. Okay, I said, those of you who have gone to conferences with me, you have seen me in a suit ironing the booth cloth. And they're like, yeah. I said, so someone explain to me what a low-level task is. And I said, there's no such thing. There's just tasks, duties, and responsibilities. Period. But here's the big problem. If you refer to someone's responsibility as low-level, how dare you turn around and expect them to perform at the highest level? Think about that. We want maximum output from people, but you just told them their responsibility is low level.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
And why do you think so many, because it feels very real that the way you lead is unique and is special, but it also feels so doable for other business leaders, other business owners. Why are so many businesses whiffing on putting people first?
I will say this, my opinion again. Leaders, there's no...
Everything Javon says today is truth, fact.
It is, I will say this, it's truth for me.
Yeah.
I believe it's why I do it. There's always going to be people that disagree with you. That takes us back to, I don't give a fuck. So...
You don't show me as somebody who does things I don't believe in.
No. Why do I feel that companies don't do it? For some, it's unsafe. For others, it falls outside the playbook. Matter of fact, even with this book, it's this book is not a playbook because leadership is not a game, and so it doesn't fall within the wash, rinse, repeat, safe playbook that we've operated for so long, and that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. And that's why I feel like many people don't adopt the practices, the thoughts that it takes, in my opinion, to build a great organization that puts people first.
I've been curious before, so I'll ask you now that we're on air, I guess. Is your leadership style ever influenced by, you sort of saw the opposite example of what leadership looks like growing up, your dad putting himself first, leaving you, going to England, having 23 kids, only looking out for himself, and now here you are in leadership positions looking out for everybody else. Did that play a role in influencing the way you lead?
I wouldn't say it was just my dad, it was also society. I saw how people treated my mom. I saw how people treated us, just because I was mixed race. So it was truly from, like this. Again, I'm a God guy, God first. Kids go to private Christian school. I believe in gay marriage. And like some people are like, how that can't be, and there's multiple reasons why. One, because it's hard enough to find one person to love in this world, but two, my mom back in maybe the late 80s, early 90s, it was very controversial for gays to adopt kids. Mm-hmm. And my mom grew up in an institutional orphanage. I mean, where they were beat, neglected, abused. And I remember my mom saying to me, I was, 17, 18 years old. And we were watching this, and she said, you know what? I would have given anything for a gay couple to have adopted me out of that hellhole. Mm-hmm. She said, I would go to bed at night. No one would say I love you. No one would say I was proud of you. No, on my birthday, no one said happy birthday. On Christmas, she said we got an orange and an apple there for Christmas. She said in the orphanage, they were only allowed to use 3 squares of single ply toilet paper to use the restroom. And she said, so when I look at that, she goes, 2 men, 2 women, doesn't matter. I would have loved for 2 men at night to put me to bed and say, I love you, I'm proud of you. 2 women to put me to bed at night and say, we love you. And that really changed my view that a lot. Well, it didn't change my view. It established my views. I didn't have a view. That coupled with I saw how we were treated. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to the accepting of people. I made the joke the other day, Gunner, using pronouns has become very popular. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't use pronouns. And somebody said, what? And they thought I was being offensive. I said, well, one, first and foremost, because I don't even know what a pronoun is. I go, just academically, educational, I don't know what a pronoun is. I go, but 2, I'm not going to use a pronoun to describe someone. If you're human, that's all that matters. Mm-hmm. I'm going to respect you because you're human. That's it. Transgender, gay, I'm not being offensive when I say this, but pansexual, all the different things out there that I don't know, you're human, mm-hmm. and I'm going to respect you as such.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, you're speaking more lovingly because you're saying the person you love the person, they matter to you before you even know what they're mm-hmm. They're human. That's the part that matters. Right. The pronoun piece.
Pronoun
does not dictate
your human
whether you
beginning of the story.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're who'd you vote for? I don't care. Yeah. Transgender, I don't care. Yeah. Are you human? Are you respectful to other people? Are you kind? Okay. That's all that matters.
And with the book coming out in a couple of months for Modern Leadership, what are you wanting to happen as far as when the book comes out? Do you want it to change lives? Do you want it to change business? Do you want it to grow your business? Just what do you want to happen with the book coming out?
There's, unlike a lot of our authors, I'm not really into selling millions of copies. Yeah. For me, it would be showing people a different way that leadership can be approached, mm-hmm. business can be done. Yeah. And that really is the end state of the goal where, Peter, Bill, and Jeff aren't the only people that get to come into the boardroom. Mm-hmm. I personally feel that we are missing massive opportunities by not opening the doors and allowing others in the boardroom or the executive meetings. And look at me for instance. I see business different, but I grew up different. Mm-hmm. So think of the perspectives we're missing out on. And I'll dive into this one. I said to someone, this is my favorite. I said, pharmaceutical reps are a legalized drug deal. Mm-hmm. And they were like, what? I go, every drug dealer in America knows that the first rule is, hey, the first sample is free. Mm-hmm. Why? Because we know if you do this sample, you're going to get hooked and you're going to be coming back and you're going to want to. I said, every street kid, drug dealer, Everyone knows that rule. Give Gunner a sample, he'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
First one's free on me. You'll be back. What do pharmaceutical reps do for a living? They pass out free samples.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what's crazy, where I offended someone. I said, think about this. Imagine if I went up to 18, 19-year-old kid that's out there on the corner, sun up, sundown, hustling, nickel and dime drug dealer. And I said to this kid, hey, what if I told you you could pass out free samples and we'll give you a company car, an American Express expense account. You can take people to lunches and dinners. And if you're really good at the end of the year, we'll give you this really nice glass plaque and we'll give you a big bonus.
Mm-hmm.
They're like,
and it's all legal.
It's all legal.
Yeah.
It's called a pharmaceutical rep.
Yeah.
Same shit you're doing here, but on the legal side.
Right.
And again, why do I have that perspective? Because as a kid, my dad taught me that the only difference between him and the CEO of Budweiser was the government chose to make the CEO of Budweiser's drug legal.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught me the lesson that, hey, prohibition was illegal in this country at one point too.
Mm-hmm.
We just chose to say, we're going to make that legal now.
Yeah.
I'll be damned, here I am, it just happened in my 40s. What did we start doing? We started making marijuana legal.
Mm-hmm.
So shouldn't we kind of like let a lot of people out of prison right now?
Yeah.
So, but, you know, it's,
We're going to the bathroom, y'all keep talking.
it's just, I got, you know, different perspectives.
You need to have your wife train your bladder better.
I know.
Jenny, get on it. I have a maybe an odd question.
Yeah.
But, you have successfully built some businesses, and every Tuesday I go to a kind of like a small business group meeting with some friends, and they're all young guys trying to start their own thing. Gunnar and I are trying to build this out bigger. What advice, if any, would you have to anybody, any organization that is starting from, let's say, 2 people up to 200 people, coming in and instituting people and processes that will result in not even just like success, but just positive growth?
I would say first and foremost for me are set expectations early and often. If you don't set expectations early and often, expectations will be set for you. And what I mean by that, I'll give you a small example. If you and I are in business and we hire Gunnar, and Gunnar says, hey, what time do we start each day? And we say to Gunnar, 8:30, but man, if you come in 8:45, no big deal. I promise you, Gunnar will show up at 9. But,
Typical Gunnar.
right. But if we say we start at 8:30, man, hey, don't even think about getting here at 8:31 because, my God, Steve, CEO, is a beast about, guess what? You're probably going to be there at 8:20.
Yeah.
So set expectations early and often. What are you trying to accomplish? What is the goal? Stay focused. So many people want to do 72 different things, and that keeps you away from the. I'm a big 3 to 5 person.
Sure.
I feel like if you go off of one hand, that's too many. Gunner's heard me say this 1,000,001 times. My 5 pillars, life pillars: God, health, family, business, and investing. If it falls out of those 5, I don't do it.
Sure.
I love football. Tom Brady didn't send me any of his $20 million contract last year. I didn't watch Super Bowl. And I much rather spend that time with my children.
Yeah.
My kids are now at the age where they're in golf lessons. I love golf.
All of them?
No, the 2 oldest, 6 and 8. And so you're prepping them so you can take them out on the golf course and spend quality time. But for years, I've not played golf because 4.5 hours to play a round of golf, I could be with my family. So same in business. What are the focus priorities? What are we trying to accomplish? And set expectations early and often.
And I can even see that translating into, say, a relationship. You said the
Totally.
expectations early and often. This is what I want out of a relationship. This is what we do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Think
about that, man. The number 1 and 2 reasons for divorce in our country: communication and money. And money is usually because we didn't communicate about the money.
Right. We didn't talk about how much we had.
Right.
Or how much we did.
Or did that.
Yeah, communication. I mean, even I feel so many people in relationships and they're not establishing and saying what they want.
Right.
What are their desires? What are their needs? What are their sexual preferences? And that becomes damaging because then you start to build up animosity, different wants, different desires. Then you start to stray. You start to wander.
You start to resent.
Yes.
You start to resent somebody or an organization for never meeting the expectation you never communicated.
That you never communicated.
Javon, why do you think that we hesitate to communicate what we need in an organization, relationship?
In a relationship, I feel, my opinion, some people fear shame and embarrassment. And so again, why my wife and I talk about this, because she comes from a family that they don't talk about things.
Mm-hmm.
I come from, there's not a lot of embarrassment. Like when you're walking around, you got bread bags on your feet. Like you've been embarrassed. Like
Sure.
you know.
Yeah. There's no door on the bathroom here.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right.
Shame? What's that?
Even that. Think about that for a second. We all go to the restroom.
Yeah.
But yet and still,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's amazing to me. Like, but we all go to the restroom.
We all pee in the middle of interviews sometimes.
Well, we
Every
all
single one
don't
of
do
us,
that.
yeah.
You did that.
That was a choice.
Yes, that was a choice.
It was that or pee my pants. So
Well, you know what? You should just pee your pants.
We
You
don't-
walk
we
away
don't
together.
pull around. That's all
Alright.
right. Keep them like little
I'm gonna
peacocks
take that one to heart.
Sponsored by Depends.
Exactly. But yeah, I feel that people don't communicate what they want, what they need, their desires. And the other thing is, like, it's okay for those things to change over time.
Yeah.
But communicate.
And if you establish early that you communicate what you need, then when it changes, you're already comfortable.
Set expectations
There you go.
early and often.
And so translating that into like an organizational standpoint, does it become harder because you feel like you're just a cog in a machine? Is that where good leadership comes in to make people feel like they can communicate? How do you navigate that?
I feel, one, you have to keep things top of mind. Gunnar knows this. Gunnar probably gets tired of hearing me say some of the same things over and over and over. But you have to constantly remind people, keep those things top of mind, like our values. What are they? Keep them top of mind. You have to repeat them so people know, and so people can grow comfortable to be able to come to leadership and share their opinions, their thoughts.
Yeah.
Gunnar hears this all the time from me. I loathe when someone will put a comment on an anonymous survey that they've not shared with you, so you can address it. So you put it on an anonymous survey, but you never told me. And I always give this example. I'm like, that's like me coming home and my wife saying, I'm leaving you. Why? Because you don't pick your socks up. You never told me. I pick my socks up, but
For the record.
yes.
There's a period of time
Let
where
the
you
record
didn't
show.
pick your socks.
But it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know, give me a chance to address it, rectify it. Hell, even give me a chance to come off like an ass. But you don't even know how it's going to be done because you've not said anything.
Yeah, establishing the line of communication.
Yes.
Setting the expectation. So I have a semi-specific question. I'm starting to step into a leadership role where I work, and I'm just anecdotally seeing that I'm going from producing literal output of this is what I produced, this is what I wrote, and you can see it, right? To when you're in that leadership role, it's like, all right, well, I'm basically a professional spell checker, but like I'm checking all these things, but I don't feel like I'm producing anything. So how do you lead well and know that you are producing?
One, I would say you are producing. You're producing your QA. Your quality checking this. So quality assurance. The other piece is your role is to support people in producing at their highest level.
Yeah.
Big mistake that I see that leaders make. Leaders believe, some, that they're supposed to know all the answers. Gunnar hears me say this all the time. I am not paid to know all the answers. That is not what my role is. My role is to surround myself with people who know all the answers. And so never know all the answers. Never go in trying to be the smartest person in the room. And bring up those who you work with and serve and support. Your role is to make them better at what they do and get the hell out of the way and let them do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's I've said this before. So I won some CEO award back in October, CEO of the
Austin's
year
best
Austin.
CEO.
Sure.
Austin's best
CEO.
CEO.
Yeah. But here, and I said this on stage in accepting the award. What I find interesting about it, and I even laughed a little bit. I said, I even think it's kind of funny. I don't do the work.
Yeah.
But I'm getting this award.
Yeah.
All the people in the organization execute and do the work. Yeah, I say some things. Yeah, I set some vision and things of that nature. But my role is to serve and support the organization so they can be the best at what they do. Yeah. That's it. How do I serve you? How do I support you? How do I clear some obstacles? But man, if I get an award, give me an award for great hiring practices, for hiring great people, because that's really what it comes down to. I get this question all the time, and so I'm kind of throwing out all these different leader things of modern leader. I get this in interview a lot. What's your biggest concern right now as CEO? Man, it's the same answer I had 7 years ago, same answer I have today, same answer I'll have 15 years from now. Hiring great people. Because if you give me great people, everything else...
that goes to the process.
That's it.
Part,
great people, great process, great profits. All starts with great people.
Yeah.
That answer is never going to change.
What I'm curious about, you give the anonymous survey feedback thing. What is feedback you've gotten as a leader, whether it was at Springhead or here at Scribe, that did catch you off guard? Like something that was told you, feedback about your leadership that actually made you pause for a second?
It wasn't about my leadership. It was about something that we were doing as an organization or we weren't doing.
Okay.
And again, bring it up. I can't fix what I don't know, or maybe I've not seen, maybe I overlooked it. Again, my role is not to know all the answers. So, here's a good one. Someone brought to our attention that this was about 3 years ago. There was a time period where if you went to our website, we were heavily a white organization. So through the interview process, we used to have where you had to film a video. And someone called us out, or someone said, we should do away with the video piece because what's happening is you're probably having minority candidates not even apply because they feel that they're not going to get hired based on their race. Me being mixed race, never even thought about it from that perspective. And I'm the minority. And so we immediately were like, make it optional. Some people will want to film their video, some won't. They can just do the sound. We made it optional. Great input, great insight. We made it happen. So things like that, if it's, again, I'm the minority and I never even thought about that.
Yeah. I'm curious, as a leader who is mixed, has anyone ever put pressure on you, or have you ever felt, if you ever get the label like black leader, is that something you like or that you have like a qualm with?
I again, this goes back to society. So it's a good. I appreciate this question, Gunnar, because we're gonna hit two things on this one. When Barack Obama was running for office, it used to piss me off that people would say first black president or when he became president. And the reason being is because he was mixed race. His dad was black, mom was white. Having grown up mixed race and not having had a lot of people I could identify with, especially successful people, I saw that and I'm like, come on, man, put it out there. First mixed race president, say it, you know, and he never did. And that always bothered me because, you know, at one point he was living with his white grandparents in Kansas. I mean, come on, Kansas is like the whitest place in the country. Maybe Montana.
Yeah, South Dakota.
And then there's that. Yeah, and, you know, hey, they've come up on the Texan though, so they've got a little more diversity up in South Dakota now. But that used to really bother me that he didn't say he was the first mixed race president. And again, we go back to society, and especially if we're going to truly look to just break down a lot of these things that have happened to us over the time of our country, society has always looked at Barack Obama, first black president, me, black CEO. Many people don't know where that came from. There was a rule that was written that if you had one drop of black blood, you were black. And it's funny, we go around and we want to take down all these statues and flags and okay, great. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but dive into some of the really hard parts of this where that was a law. You know, let's address that. Here's another one. Like I said, we're going to go two places with this. So that bothered me with Barack Obama. Here's something else that bothers me on what we do as a society. We also pick and choose how we want to present things. So the kid in Minneapolis, Dante Wright, he was shot mistakenly by a police officer. It was like the same week of the George Floyd police officer trial. This kid was shot and killed. The police officer thought she had her taser and she had her gun and she shot this kid and this kid died. All over social media, the news, national news, you name it, blogs, wherever. Black man dies in Minneapolis week of George Floyd trial. Black man died, black man shot by police. And so here's what really bothered me. They showed his mom and dad on TV. His mom was white, his dad was black. Never once did they say, mixed race kid, man, shot and killed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Right. But at the same time, exact same time, you know what else was going on in our country? We were bending over backwards. We were running banners in the sky to tell you that Kamala Harris was mixed race. We went over and beyond in this country to let you know that she was the first mixed race president in this country. Or vice president, sorry. Right. And okay, I'm fine with that. Great. All right, hey, you know what? Especially, again, being mixed race, I was like, hey, all right, good. I'm on board. What bothered me, though, is we only do it as a society when it's convenient or what narrative we're trying to put out there.
On one hand, they got to celebrate something.
Right.
On the other, they had to catch attention.
Exactly. Black man shot by the police again.
Right.
We got to put that out there this way. Oh, first female vice president or mixed race. She's mixed race. And so I'm not a fan of how people pick and choose to use it. For me, I'm pimp father-in-all, orphan mother-in-law. I'm equally as proud to be half black as I am to be half white. And if you just call me black, you're completely leaving out the fact that I have a white mother.
Whom you love dearly.
Who I love. So I am mixed race. I am half black, half white. I'm no more proud of either side.
I've always wondered this, when you came into more monetary success, what was it like to be able to help your mom in some ways? Like, were there ways that you were able to, like, I don't, like, were you able to share that success with your mom once you came into it?
So my mom had got remarried when I was 22, 23 years old. And my stepdad was upper middle class, if you want. So
Okay.
he took care of my mom. My
Yeah.
mom was in a good position, and that was great. I'd say we were going to go down the monetary path of that. What was interesting is to see how I was treated very differently when I had money than when I was broke. And honestly, what it turned into me was, I'm not going to say racism doesn't exist, because it does, always will. But I believe it's also more of a class than it is race.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have money and you can spend dollars a certain way and you can live a certain way, you're treated very differently. Because I promise you, in that gated community I live in, if more of those neighbors knew that Pimp father, 23 kids, doesn't know where his last name came, they'd have a little different of opinion about me. But CEO, 4 kids, lives in the gated community, good family, wholesome family. Till you get into that background, then you realize, oh, not as wholesome as we thought.
Yeah.
So I really understood the lessons of economics in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How does that sit with you as far as knowing that your experience and other experiences, mixed or black, just minority, we celebrate minorities or mixed people who, come into success, but then for the ones that don't, there's almost this like, well, they should pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and we treat them different, like people treat them differently. How does that sit with you?
Well, it really goes back to what we've talked about the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
People are people to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't really give it. It's interesting. Some people will gawk, lose their mind over, oh my God, there's Matthew McConaughey. Oh my God, there's LeBron James. My attitude's always been, hey man, you wake up just like me. You got to roll out of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
You got to stand up.
Use the bathroom.
Put shorts on. Whatever it is you do.
Matthew McConaughey probably doesn't put shorts on.
Yeah, but even this, he still has to roll out of bed. Exactly.
Yeah.
So my whole thing is, it goes back to what we said. People are people. It doesn't matter to me if you have, if you're number 1 on the Forbes 400, or if you are homeless on the corner. Mm-hmm. People are people. Mm-hmm. I think of this. Here's one that's very important to me. If you're in the airport and you go to the restroom, no one ever speaks to the restroom attendants at airports. Mm-hmm. No one. Yeah. And that sucks. So I do my best to go out of my way and say, hey, thank you. Restroom looks great. I even like to tip them. Think about it. No one's tipping the restroom attendant at the airport. Yeah. I've even watched people have attitude at the airport. Let's say the attendant's cleaning one of the stalls, and someone comes in and maybe they just got off a flight. Maybe they pull a gunner and they middle of the interview.
I'm never going to hear that.
No, ever. And so they run into the stall. They run to the restroom, and then the stall has the restroom attendant. And they're cleaning the restroom. They'll literally have attitude about it.
That's the weirdest thing,
isn't it?
Yeah.
And so, restroom attendant, billionaire, athlete, CEO, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. But our country, it's economics. I mean, think of this dynamic. You can take a Hollywood actor, famous athlete, entertainer, and they walk into a restaurant. The manager, the owner, whoever is it, oh, it's on us. They'll comp the meal. The very people who can afford to pay for it will get the free meal, But the family who may have had to save up a little bit to have a night out on the town, and dad or mom works some overtime to save up to go to this restaurant, no, we don't count them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so again, it takes me back to economics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That weird kind of inequality
Mm-hmm.
in class. Yeah.
Mhm.
It is interesting. Javon, something that makes me really happy is how positive you see things. The story you tell yourself is obviously a good one, and I'm curious what you're excited about in the future.
Excited about the future. I mean, obviously, right now we're going through a rough go as a country between the virus and employment and equality. You know, race is obviously a hot topic in our country. I still believe, and always will believe, life is what you make of it. And Gunner's heard this before. I mean, think about this. You know, when that prostitute sexually molested me, she used to force me to perform oral sex when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. And if I didn't do it right, she would punch me in the face, punch me in the head, slap me in the face, tell me to do it right. And I'm 6, 7, 8 years old. What the hell does do it right mean? And you know, for watching my dad collect money from prostitutes, seeing people spit in my mom's face, I always come back to this. I was still born in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, there's a family, a mom, a dad, walking 1,100 miles, walking from Honduras to try to get into this country. And here's what's crazy. They walk 1,100 miles, then they stand at the border. They're like, okay, we got a time trying to can we make it across the Rio Grande? Some can swim, some can't. Some make it, some don't. But if you make it into the country, here's what you get. Great, you got in. You still don't speak the language in most cases. You need to find employment, shelter, food, money. Man, on my worst day of being sexually molested, shit, I was still born in this country.
Yeah.
So I look at it and always say to myself with gratitude, thankfulness, man, I was born here.
Yeah.
No matter how rough my circumstances, I was born here. And I just choose to look at life that way. We can all make excuses, blame someone else. The system's holding me back. And, you know, again, my attitude, I've heard people say this, it's unfair that I have to work 100 times harder than that person over there. Okay, there may be some truth in that. It may not be fair, but here's my attitude. If I work 100 times harder than Gunner, my attitude is I'm just 100 times better than Gunner. So but I'm going to get where I need to go. I'll acknowledge the obstacle, that maybe something that's unfair, but I don't stop there.
Yeah.
And so as a country, how do we improve? How do we get better? How do we realize all that we have in this country? And that's the way I choose to look at it. Everyone's not going to agree.
That's
Man,
okay.
It's okay.
That's okay.
Learned that shit a long time ago.
There's so much truth that if we, as a society, train ourselves to stop complaining about the obstacles and instead get over the obstacles, that would be progress.
Yeah.
Instead of the opposite.
Negativity has never, in my opinion, done anything for anyone. But man, positivity can change everything. And so I just choose to be positive on a day where maybe everything's not going your way.
Yeah.
I choose to see what is positive in my life.
Yeah.
And it is a choice.
It is. That's it
Absolute
right
choice.
there, man. It is a choice. Even if you're in prison, you have a choice up here on how am I going to think about this day.
Yeah.
I know no matter what, if you're in a hospital bed, you have a choice to see a situation however you want. And unfortunately for so many people, they just choose to look at it from a negative standpoint, a victim standpoint, a complaining standpoint, entitlement, oh, is me, and I just will not live life that way.
Yeah, well, Javon, you are a man of unshakable optimism. You're...
Hey, you forgot handsome.
And handsome.
I appreciate that, my man.
He's a little underdressed, but...
you didn't get the memo, it's fine.
And you do, you what I appreciate about you most as a leader, and even if I only heard about you, I would know this is true, you practice what you preach.
Thank you, sir.
You're not full of shit.
No.
I have seen with my own eyes you live out all the things you talk about, and I know that you have a lot more important things to do than sit with us for too much longer, so 2 more questions for you.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing too, man. Here's the beauty of this. You asked me. You know, that's what's one of our values. Ask questions.
What's the one I'm best at?
I have built a career out of asking questions, man. Yeah. I mean, not a whole lot going on up here academically, so I've always had to ask. And you asked, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for you, man. You're great.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Gunner's easily, I tell people all the time, Gunner's my favorite thing about me.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to deflect the love session here. You have good questions. I do appreciate that and appreciate the time you've taken to be here. We really
truly
do. I'll let you ask the last one. I'll hit this one. You do talk about leaders with legacies often. I've noticed that you follow the work of the Rockefellers, of the Disneys, and it does make me believe like you're leaving your own legacy and you're forging your own path. And so I do just want to ask, you know, let's fast forward 50, 60 years, because you're not down anytime soon. I'm not going to let that happen. What is the legacy you want left about Javon McCormick?
Man, I got to start first and foremost. He was, I mean, really, I'll go intimate, and I'll share what I say in my prayers. You know, God, please lead me down your path to be one of the greatest humans, people, men, husband, father, leader, CEO, and speakers that has ever walked the earth. And I say that in my prayers. You know, if I have to be a little more detailed, again, what would I put on the tombstone or whatever? Fair. I was fair. He always considered someone else's point of view, someone else's opinion. He never was just, nope, that's the way it is. I always took the time to listen. I made time for people. I put people first, and all of that to me is being fair. You know, I'm not going to just make time for you because you're wealthy. I'm not going to just make time for you because you're white or black, or I was fair. I treated everyone with respect. So that's, I would like to be known as someone that was fair and did not allow the cards that were dealt to me as a child to dictate how I played the hand. I don't know if you guys are poker guys, but it's kind of like poker. Man, I got a 2, a 4, a 7, a 9, and a jack, and I went all in.
Yeah.
And I went all in with that hand, and I made the most of that hand. I say jack because it starts with J. Yes, I had to use it. But yeah, that circumstances did not dictate what I could create in life, and I always made damn sure that I was fair, and I created my own path.
Absolutely. Our last question. We ask all our guests this.
All right.
And I'm excited to ask you this one. What does it mean to you to be a Texan?
Oh shit, man! Come on, you hit home for me because there's no state income tax. There it is, man. We started off with taxes, went on taxes.
Oh, yeah. Full circle.
2 episodes in a row about taxes.
Taxes in Texas.
You know, many people, man. We'll get. I appreciate that question because
thank you, sir.
Because this is gonna touch a nerve for some people. What I'm gonna say here, you know, Texas is under a lot of criticism right now with the abortion laws that passed, or what they're still debating, trying to pass, fight, wherever it is right now. There's a lot of debate about it. Man, I'm a product of an abortion gone bad. Mm-hmm. When my mom got pregnant the first time, my dad took her to have an illegal abortion. Mm-hmm. And it was so bad. Like she said, it was just horrific. One, it was illegal, so it wasn't like this was on the up and up. Right, it wasn't sanitary. My mom describes it. She says that my dad took her to some back alley doctor to have an abortion. So, and I say this, and I'm okay with it. I made peace with him. My mom doesn't like that I say it, but I should have never been born. My mom had no business having a kid. She couldn't even raise herself. She was still learning.
Yeah,
half the
she
shit.
was a girl, not
yes,
a woman.
half the shit we learned at the same time. Yeah. And so I'm a product of an abortion gone bad. The second time she got pregnant, that first abortion was so bad that she said, I'll just have a kid. Mm-hmm. So this goes into, again, me with my Christian faith. My wife and I would never have an abortion. Mm-hmm. And I believe actually Megan gave me this, the best way to put it. I'm pro-choice, anti-abortion. Yeah, is the way she gave me that, because again, at the end of the day, man, we all have to make terms with who our creator, higher power, ourselves, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So again, while my wife and I would never have an abortion, I'm not going to judge, look down on someone who did, or who is choosing to, because again, I'm a product of an abortion gone bad. And again, I'm just so thankful of the way I was raised to be able to have that point of view and see it from a different perspective. So I know Texas catches hell for that right now. Many could argue rightfully so. But I love Texas. I love living here. Again, I can't say it enough, no state income taxes. But I may own a second home somewhere in this country, but Texas will always be home. I love Texas.
Texas is home.
Yeah, Texas is home, man. And as I said to you both when you came out to greet me, Texas is home, son bitch.
I think we're going to leave it right there. Javon McCormick, thank you so much for all your time. We can follow you at Javon McCormick and all the socials. I know that you're posting all that on your own every single day. So.
Yeah, okay, Gunner.
Modern Leader coming out later this spring, or we pushed it to the summer?
I believe it's going to come out in June.
In June.
So, yeah,
all right.
It's coming out in June.
Plenty of time to listen to this interview a couple of times. Just once again, Javon, thank you so much for the leader you are, the man you are, all the things. We appreciate you so much.
Gentlemen, I appreciate it. This was awesome. I got to sit with the white Jesus. Yeah, because there's debates on what did Jesus actually look like. So you are the white version of what's depicted of him. So there you go.
He's also the version that a certain person at T-Penny Cabaret a few months ago, tripping on acid at the bar, reached out to him and said, "Are you Jesus?"
He was very concerned.
See,
even to those on mushrooms,
I gave him a blessing.
There you go.
Just in case.
Just on the audio.
Yeah, hey, be fair.
Be fair.
Be fair.
All right, gentlemen, I appreciate it.